Minnesota upgrades that should make you walk away. Minnesota sellers are disguising liabilities as upgrades. And the worst part is they look great in the photos. Today, I'm going to break down the upgrades that should make you think twice before making a purchase. And stick around to the end, because I'm going to talk about the upgrades that sellers think add value to the home, but should make you turn and run away immediately. I was working with a buyer last year. We found the perfect home that they wanted. It was in a great neighborhood, great school district, and it was priced well for the area. And the listing was full of upgrades. It had a new pool. They'd finished the garage and converted it to a bonus room. It had a theater in the basement, and it had a premium upgraded kitchen. On paper, it looked like a premium home, but in person, it felt like someone had made very specific decisions and they expected everyone to love them. The buyer loved the location, but they didn't like the pool. They didn't like the converted garage. They didn't need the theater system, and they absolutely hated the upgrades to the kitchen. Even though the kitchen was completely upgraded with all these premium options, it was very taste specific. The style of the kitchen did not match the rest of the house at all. All of these features in the home had a price attached to them. Upkeep of the pool, converting the garage back to a garage, restoring the kitchen, and converting the basement back to a living room. At the end of the day, the buyers walked. Weeks later, I checked back on the home. It was still on the market, and it had taken a price reduction. The sellers had mistook their personal taste for added value. In Minnesota, buyers are more well-informed than ever, and as inventory starts to increase, the market is leaning back to a buyer's market, more so than we've seen in the past 6 years. And making the wrong upgrades can have your home sitting on the market even longer. Here's what to look for. I'm Aaron, the Titan Real Estate Group, and I help Minnesota home buyers identify assets and upgrades that add value compared to the ones that are liabilities. Here are the upgrades that show up in Minnesota homes consistently, and the buyers keep falling for them. Let's take a look at that converted garage that we just talked about. In Minnesota, garages are important, more so than in those southern states. We have harsh winters, and if you don't have a garage, you're out at 6 a.m. in the morning scraping ice off of your vehicle. Now, converting the garage may add some extra space, and even if you don't convert the garage fully, say you just have a 2-car garage and you convert it into a 1-stall with an exercise room in it or something like that. Make sure that if you are going to make these upgrades to your garage, that they are easily converted back to a garage. I've seen it before. They have awesome workout room or even a home office built into the garage, and my buyers walk because a garage space is at such a premium in Minnesota. Also, not only because of the winters, Minnesotans have toys, right? They have jet skis, boats, things like that, outdoors with things, ATVs. They need that storage space, and it's much more important than a workout room to them. So if you have a garage that you converted, make sure that you can easily convert it back, or that there's some kind of other option for their cars and their different toys. And if you don't have that ability to convert it back, make sure that when you're choosing your price point, that you include that conversion dollar amount back into the price. The next part I want to talk about is those over-personalized design choices. Bold paint colors, themed rooms, custom murals, highly specific tile patterns, ultra-personalized kitchens, or ultra-personalized anything for that matter. They may feel like upgrades to you as the seller, but to you as the buyer, they're just costs. Every bold decision shrinks the buyer pool. And those decisions aren't objectively wrong, but about only 10% of the population can imagine homes as theirs. And so it's your job as the seller to get the home as neutral as possible to show the buyers what it could look like for them. And that's your job as the seller to make sure that happens. If you can't, again, Minnesota inventory is moving up, and then the buyers are going to be comparing multiple homes. And if they have an option for a neutral home that makes them see as their own compared to yours, which makes it look like your own, not theirs, because of all the taste specific options, most likely that buyer is going to move on to the next home. Every decision makes a statement. When you're setting your price, make sure you think about what it takes to get that room back to neutral, or better yet, convert it back to neutral yourself. A little time and effort goes a long way in getting that max dollar. You have to remember that this home is no longer yours. Stop making decisions that you like and start making decisions that everyone will like. So the more personal it is, the smaller the buyer pool. The next upgrade to think about are luxury premium upgrades that outclass the neighborhood. You don't want to be the nicest home in the neighborhood. Making those upgrades to your home that were already at the top dollar of the neighborhood aren't going to get you your money back. So let's say you buy a house for $500,000. The next most expensive house in the home is $550,000, right? If you spend $100,000 on upgrading your kitchen, you're not going to get a dollar for dollar return because that market tells us that the homes are only worth about $550,000. You might be able to go a little bit above that with a premium upgrade, but not much more than 10 to 20,000. So even though you got $500,000 home plus a $100,000 upgrade, you'll probably only be able to sell it for about $550 to $570, meaning you lose out on about $30,000 of that upgrade cost. Now, if you're going to be living in the home for a long time, making that upgrade for you is something that, most people will want to do, because you're making that upgrade for you to live in for the next 10 years. But if you think you're going to be moving in the next 3 to 5 years, you might want to think twice before picking out those certain different colors that only you would like. I always highly recommend to consult with a professional designer before making those upgrades, or your local realtor as well. So again, before making those premium upgrades, make sure you're really analyzing how much it's going to cost you in the long run, and make sure you talk to a realtor about doing a market analysis and making sure that you're not over upgrading your home for the neighborhood that it is in. Next, let's talk about that teaser that I spoke of. What upgrade should make you immediately walk away that sellers thinks add value to the home, but really it is lowering the value of their home? And that number one upgrade that I see more often than anything else is the DIY, do-it-yourself projects. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a home, the pictures looked amazing, new tile shower, new tile backsplash, new fresh paint, right? Then me and my buyers go to the home, and we can see that all of that work was done by the seller themselves, and clearly they were not contractors. That tile backsplash had crooked tiles. The grout was wrong. There was no edging whatsoever on the tile. Same with the shower that they tiled. It just looks like someone who did not know what they were doing did the upgrades. And now that not only doesn't increase the value, it actually decreases the value, because now the buyer has to pay a professional to demo that work and install new work. Another example of this is the paint, right? We've all done it ourselves. We painted the home ourselves, but we are not professional painters. Now, some people can. I'm not trying to deter you from doing the job yourself, but if you are not confident in your ability to do it absolutely perfect, you are much better off paying a professional who can do it perfectly. You may be paying more now, but it'll save you money in the long run. We've all seen homes with streaky paint colors. You can see that the ceiling has paint on it because the person painting the walls touched up, when they're doing the line across. We've all done it before, right? Where you hit the ceiling, you're like, oh shoot, but instead of painting the whole ceiling, you just leave it. Baseboards are often things that get missed as well. When you're installing baseboards, you have little pins that you put in there, right? The pin nails. And if you don't properly caulk them and sand it and then repaint the baseboard, it is very apparent that you installed that baseboard yourself. So paint is another big one. Well worth paying a professional, not only because it looks better, but painting is very tedious. Unless you got a lot of time on the weekends, it's honestly probably cheaper just to pay a professional to do it anyways. They're going to do it much quicker and much better, and it's going to be way less hassle for you. Another upgrade I see that sellers like to do themselves are going to be your custom built-ins. Now that's things like we see it on HGTV, right? Those custom built-ins to the left and the right of the fireplace, the shiplap accent walls, things like that, the laundry room with the extra folding table, things like that. They're all great upgrades, but if you don't do them properly, it's going to make your house look like a child did it. It's not good. You're much better off skipping the project altogether. Or again, if you're going to do the project yourself and you can't do it perfectly, make sure that it's easily converted back to a neutral space like it was before. And if you want to do these things yourself, save the money now. But if you can't do them quite perfectly, when you are relisting the home for sale, make sure that you're building the costs of redoing those projects into the price beforehand. So just remember, DIY done wrong costs you money in the long run. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Now I want to hear from you. Are there any projects that you're thinking about doing that you're just not quite sure about? Drop them in the comments below. Also, if you've been a buyer in the past and you've walked through homes, please share your experience so sellers watching this video can see real life examples of what DIY projects gone wrong have looked like for other buyers. Anyways, drop in the comments. I look at every single one of them. We respond to them all, or reach out to me personally. Got my number and my email in the comments, in the links. Reach out. Love to talk with you. Anyways, Titan Real Estate Group, treating you the way that we would want to be treated. Real Talk Real Estate with Aaron Z. We'll see you next time, guys.